Right guys, welcome back to Imagine Tutorials. This episode 3 is going to be about texturing and UVing. We've got our pieces up from last time, from the episode 2 of creating the map itself. As you can see, I've got opened my map with the lighting system. Again, you don't need to copy the lights, it's just I thought it was quite a funky way to do it. What we're going to do is we're just going to add not too much detail to it, again because it's just a tutorial video and you don't want to be spending too much time on these going through individual designs on textures, but obviously the process of doing it is going to be the same no matter how much detail you put into it. So first off, we're in Maya, and what we want to do is just select, first off I'm going to select the wall straight 01 and move that out a bit. As you can see, completely blank texture, no colours that are different from any others, just a default Lambert. I'm just gonna hide all that for now. Okie doke. All we're gonna do is we select our piece and we go to UV and UV editor, and we can see, if I bring it over, the UV space is this square here. Now that is what is going to be replaced by our texture. Say for example we did a sci-fi metal texture with different cuts and grooves, things like that, then that's what we'd have there. We'd have it in this space. As you can see, this shape here is nothing like what we've got on the left here. It is exactly the opposite of our design. Now to combat that, what we can do is we need to UV map. Now to do that, we've got a good selection of tools up here. Now I'm going to click this. We've got obviously the UV editor, which is how you bring up this. Right click, go to UV mode, and we can manipulate the UVs. Obviously move them around, and it doesn't manipulate these shapes, but obviously the actual main shape is completely off. So first off, what we'll do is we will select some areas. First off, we'll go into face mode, double click this cylinder, UV automatic. As you can see, it's mapped it out there. Move that to the side for 1 second, double click on the next one, press G to copy the last command, just move that out the way, and this semicircle or semi-cylinder down here, press G again, and we'll just move them out the way. And that near enough is them done. We'll do a bit of tweaking in a moment, but first off we'll map everything first. So we'll double click this and this, shift double click again. As you can see, they're all in random positions, and there's a couple of ways we could do this. We could UV it planar wise, which is from an axis, so basically you're taking a snapshot from a specific angle. So only from, first off, you could take a snapshot from the side view, you could take a snapshot from the front view, or in this case the back view. You could take a snapshot from the top view, and you can do it from perspective, but that's not really the best way to do it. So what we'll do is we'll go in UV, planar option box. Y obviously will be going down, so what we would want now is, looks like from the axis in the corner, we probably want X. So if we click X and apply, and move this out the way, you can see it's giving us our shapes. What we're going to do is we're going to go to the scale tool using R, and we just want to scale it so that it looks like a similar size to what we've got here. So maybe a bit less, and a bit less this way, and that's pretty much the shape of what we've got. Move that out the way so that we don't overlap just yet. And next up we'll left click the top one, and we'll shift double click the bottom, and we'll do another planar of the x-axis, and that'll give us that whole side here. Now a tiny bit of tweaking we'll do in a moment, but first off we'll go for this and shift double click down here, shift click here, double click down here, and we'll planar that again. Now we could have done that alongside this, but to be honest it doesn't really matter too much. We'll move that along for the time being. And next thing, slightly different, we'll select these faces on the side. I'm just using tab to paint across. Obviously you can shift click if you like. Now these ones obviously on a different axis. We want to do the Z axis or Z axis. Apply, and as again with the boxes in the center, it's distorted, so we just need to scale that using R. And so we've got round about the similar size. That looks okay. We'll move that down a bit. Now, one thing that you can tend to do is to save UV space, is to overlap UVs that are exact. As you can see, if I was to line it up properly, these would exactly match each other because they're exactly the same size. Now, you can overlap. It just means that you won't be able to use a different texture on these two pieces. Now, for a map that is duplicated over and over and over, you might want to have some sort of similarity between this edge here, so that if you were to place them next to each other, they would match up without an overlapping or non-overlapping texture. You know, you don't want something that's, for example, a different color here or a different shade of a smudge or a mud or dirt or something or dust or whatever, and then it doesn't have it on the other side. Now, if there is a gap in between here and there's an actual model gap where there's a groove, then yeah, you could probably get away with it. But obviously, if it's a smooth texture across or a smooth connection between pieces, you want to make sure that you have the same ending of the texture. So from right this place here to right this place here, probably not even to change it, probably to leave it and mainly stick to the outside edges. Right, now they're all done. See, as you can see, I can move that across and there's two of them, but I probably end up keeping that the same. Alright, last thing in this UVing is I will double click this and shift double click and shift double click this, and as you can see, nowhere near the shape we want. So what we've got to do is, first off, I don't really want to do planar mapping for this, so I'll do automatic mapping, and we'll move it out the way. And you can see all the shapes are the same, so we can double click this here. I'm going to hold X just so I can snap it. Hold X for this one, snap that over, and hold X for this one, snap it over. As you can see, all those could be exactly the same, but you potentially might not want that, so we'll select this left hand side one, move it out. We'll select this right hand side one, move it out. This one back in the center, out the way, and we know this one's for the right hand side. I'm going to hold X to snap so that I get on the same lines. This one's the left hand side, and there we go. And this one is the left hand side of the middle piece, and this is the left hand side of the right hand side of the middle piece, sorry. So what you want to do is you can, as I say, overlap, but if you don't want to do that, you can just position them in a neat way. Now the key is to use up the space in this square here the best you can, so obviously you can get the most use. But first off, these textures, these actual UVs aren't connected, as you can see by the two selected edges here. So what we want to do is we want to connect those edges, and the easiest way to do that is literally just going to polygons and move and sew edges. As you can see, the whole thing moved across and snapped together. Same again, select the one edge and it selects the both of them. We know that that needs to be connected. So we'll press G and it'll duplicate the previous command, and we'll select this one and do it again. As you can see, that is a completely connected texture now, or a UV I should say, with no gaps in between. So if you select this edge here and this edge, it'll always connect. Right, next one, we'll just do this quickly. This one obviously needs to be connected, polygons, move and sew edges, same again for this, and same again for this. And this edge here is, yeah, it looks like that one. possibly is slightly different just because it's not actually a full circle. So if you press J, it doesn't actually connect. Right, okay, we'll figure this out. Right, there we go. The two edges on the other side is what we wanted. I'll just move that slightly. Right, okay, so that is using the move and sew tool, and it's connected up our cylinders and our half cylinder. Now all we're going to do is position these into a way where we're going to get the best use of the texture space. With this here, I'm going to move these across and line them up so that this and this, yeah, that fits perfectly. Some useful tools in this window are the align tools up here, where, for example, say if a UV space is not in the right, line as this, you could literally just select all in that row and align to the lowest point, and it just brings it back. And again, as you can see, it's obviously I've moved it too far to the right. You can do the same thing, align to the left, and that is positioned it in the best way it possibly can be. Now, one thing we want to do is here, just for the sake of it, yeah, that's okay. One thing you'll notice is that the face that is these two is actually a lot wider than it should be on the UV. So on the UV space here, it's quite thin compared to this where it should be wider, so, or deeper you should say. So what we can do is we can just select all of this here. We could potentially just move all of this up like so. We might be better. Yeah, we'll do it all at once. So we'll select all these and we'll scale up just to give ourselves a bit more, and we'll do the same for this here, give ourselves a bit more there, and we'll see how that goes. So what we'll do, for this sake, I'm just gonna mirror these so that they're exactly the same, and I'm just gonna select all the edges on this side and move them across, and this side, and it should, yeah, that's fine. We'll move this over a bit, can save space, and this is the point we just need to fill the space as much as possible. So we'll go to press E to our scale tool, move them in, want a bit more room than that. You could probably, position these over the center of this, to sort of be able to give you, like, for example, let me show you. We could position this in the space that it's already taken up, like so. But well, the one good thing that I would do is it would give us an idea of where the shading would be for sort of shadows and dirt around them. But for the sake of this, it's good practice to use as much space as possible. Now with these things here, they aren't as wide as I was just using the scale tool, the rotate tool, by the way. They aren't as wide as this piece here. So what we'll do is we'll uniformly scale down, and then we'll just uniformly scale inwards to around about that. It's not perfect, but it doesn't have to be when it's just these cylinders. We can simply, what I'll do is, because these might have a bit more texture on, make these a bit bigger so that we could add normal maps to them as well. Maybe not that big. And then what we'll do is we'll add these cylinder pieces into this space here, and like so, and then we will add these bottom pieces into this area here. As you can see, we've still got space, so we could move these out if need be. We could add some more things here if we had them, but for one piece that is all you need to do. Now you could UV every single piece and then scale these down and have them in a nice evenly spread way like this, where you would have, obviously, if we could duplicate this, we just duplicate it over, have another one here, and again another one down here, and another one here. But for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm keeping it a bit shorter than the last videos. That's all we're going to do for the UV mapping. So just to go over it again, what you do is, you got your mesh, you can select specific areas of your mesh. So for example, this straight down piece here, go to your UV menu, you can open your UV editor, you can obviously see how distorted the UVs are. Once you've done that, you can, selecting what areas you want, you can cylindrical map it, which is sometimes used for obviously cylinders. You can also use planar mapping, which is what I use most of the time, which you would choose an axis using this in the corner here. You got your X, Y and Z, and obviously you would planar map dependent on what you want to view from. So as you say, if you've planarred the whole thing from this, you're probably not going to get anything other than a square here, a square here and a square here, and you won't be able to add any textures to it at all. And also, UVing automatically is a good way to do it. It will cause you, as I did before, to have to sew UVs together with the move and sew tool. There's a lot of other tools in UVing, however, not really required as much for this sort of modelling or for this use. Obviously it's in an Unreal Engine. All we're going to do now is I'm just going to take this screenshot here across to Photoshop. Now if you don't have Photoshop, it's not that expensive. I think it's only about £7 a month. If it's something that you want to get into, which is game design, even anything to do with artists, art, sort of digital art, concept art, even if it's just simply plain drawings, then Photoshop's a good tool to have. Now, to get this into Photoshop, it's pretty easy. All you've got to do is go into polygons. Well, first off, select the UVs, go to polygons, UV snapshot. I'm just going to browse to a random snapshot folder I've made. I'll go with the test one, overlap it. I'm going to do the size as 2056 by 2056, just because that is a power of 2. The main reason for that is to keep the scale of, for example, the pieces in Unreal. If we keep those to power of 2, then for example, if we keep those even, then it's easy to fit to the scale, and it's easy for the textures to fit to the models if they're all in and around about scale. So that's why it's 2056 by 2056 and not just a random texture size. Right, so that's saved 2056 into a random area. Okay, yeah, file exists, that doesn't matter. Right, I'll open Photoshop. I will also open the snapshot, and I'll just drag it across. As you can see, if I just get rid of the background, that is literally the UVs laid out exactly where we've got them in Maya. And what I like to do is I like to invert it so that it's black and white. Okay, and just manage that. And all you got to do is, quite simply, I'm not going to go into too much detail on how to texture. It's simply trial and error. You can mess around as much as you want. You can add, obviously, let's for example just add let's say just a random blue square across this here. That'll change that whole colour of the texture to that. Let's just bring the opacity down so we can see behind. You might want to, I don't know, go into the burn tool and change this to a normal layer. Let's see what we can get with this. Just again, random. This is something that you would take a considerable amount of time on. However, as I say, I'm just showing you the way to do it rather than a texture that's going to be complete. For example, let's just colour in this line here, and shade this line, and this one here, and this one here, this one, and again, bring up as you can see, it's done something that is not going to look very good texture wise, but for this purpose of showing the process, it's, you know, it'll do. And again, let's just go for a random reddish pink. Again, we can paint directly onto this. We know this here is going to be a texture that is, or a piece of the model that is flat, so we'll just randomly put in, actually sorry, let me create a new layer first. We'll just randomly put in a red line across. Anything else? Again, we can just select anything else we want. You could select by with the magic wand tool. You can select inside of areas like this. So you could just literally texture that one area, fill that one area, fill that one area, things like that. All I'm going to do is just create a new layer and basically just colour all these in red for the sake of it. No reason whatsoever. Just going to rasterize. Yeah, I'll add filter, just add noise just for the sake of it. There we go. And to be honest, it's as easy as that. You don't really have to do too much if you wanted to just texture something quickly to a very low detail. Let me just select these. Again, I'm just going to fill these in randomly and see what they give us. Once we've done this, we're just going to take this into Unreal and update our models that we've already got. And let's see what we can get. Okay, so that's that one. Let's just add a gradient to it. Again, honestly, doesn't really matter too much what we do at this point, unless we're going to go a bit more detail. To be honest, I'll just delete these and duplicate this over. There we go. And last but not least, on the pipes. One thing you could do after this is obviously add normal maps and things like that. Normal maps are something that you can create yourself. I've seen people do it by using black and white images of textures, but I prefer to use the Endo 2 tool, the Quixel suite. Right, last but not least, on these we'll just randomly add some strange. Alright, we'll just do grey for the sake of it. We'll add this one here, and we'll add this and this. We'll merge those two. And lastly, okay, for example, I don't know, yellow. We'll just do a random horrible yellow colour. Right, there we go. And as I say, quite simply, we could just, again I say quite simply, but you gotta take your time when you do this. I'm just going as quick as possible to not drag on too much. As I say, there you go. And again, just last thing we should do is just, for example, merge these. Pattern overlay maybe. And that'll do. And what we'll do is we will just simply, I'll minimize that just in case it sends anything over. We'll save it as a target and texture test 1 and save it as that. Go into Maya, open up Maya. We can minimize our UV editor. With our model selected, what we want to do, we want to go right click and hold, assign new material. Now this is something that is dependent on the material that you want. You can pick a Lambert material, which is one that doesn't have any reflection, if at all. It has minimal but not enough you know, that it's got a shiny substance or a surface. I tend to use Fong Blin, Lambert, and the odd MAYA mental ray texture, but for the sake of it, just use a Blin. And you see, it's got a bit more shine to it. So if you were to add like a normal map and a few lights, you would glare some nice bumps from a bump map, for example. Right. So what we'll do is I'll just go across to this blend material. I'll click the checkered box next to color, add a file, click the little yellow file name, locate where you've saved the texture. As you can see, it's all there, and now it's not there, but what we've got to do is just press texture. As you can see, exactly what we've just done. It looks ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous, but it's all there. So one thing I've noticed straight away is that you can see that our gradient on our pipes is not quite kept, and the reason being is because the UV had unwrapped from left to right, so this is one end and this is the other end, and it connects. The gradient should be in the center, and the left or the top and the bottom should be the same exact color, and that's just why that's done that. Another thing is the UV on the side here is slightly distorted. The reason for that is probably because I decided to change the whatchamacallit on this, change the scale on this. So we'll just minimize this and bring it back. You can see that the texture is changing completely. There we go, and let me select this. As you can see, the more complicated your textures become. Oh, there we go. See, as you see, as I've put it back, honestly, it didn't really matter that I uniformly changed it before. So I've put it back, fits perfectly. As I say before, it looks absolutely ridiculous because it's a very low detail texture. But for the sake of it, actually, what we'll do first off is I'll open up the Quixel Suite, and I'll show you what it does just for the sake of it. No, should have already got that. Now, this here is something that we could change to a normal map. However, black and white is what it prefers. Now, I don't tend to like just getting the texture we've got now and turning it into black and white and then getting a normal map from it. But for the sake of it and for the sake of speed, I'll just do it anyway. So I'll flatten the image, I'll discard hidden layers. I will add a hue and saturation, turn it black and white, merge the layers, add a levels where you can manipulate the high and low point of the black and white. Now, the bigger difference between black and white, the better. So if you've basically got black and white normal map like this, if you've got an image which is fully black and fully white, then what it'll do is it will have the highest contrast between a bump and non-bump. Right, so let's just, for the sake of it, whatever we can get really, just have this. Okay, we'll merge that and we'll use Endo, and we will literally create a normal map like this. As you can see, it's done what we wanted in a way. The the white areas have been the areas that have gone. The white areas have been the ones that have stayed low, and the black areas or the darker areas are the ones that have bumped and become high points. Now, as you can see, the only bit with any texture is this here, and that is because that's the only bit we had texture on. Now, there's a bit of texture here, but it's not going to give us the desired effect. We can just save it anyway, and I can show you where to put it. Right, another target. Back to the again normal map test 1, and again back to Maya. As you can see, as awful as our texture is, just for testing purposes, what we'll do is we'll close this for now. with our model selected, we'll just go straight into bump mapping. We'll go on to file, and we can change this in a moment. We'll go to this little box here. If you'd missed that, just this little box here. Again, go to file and normal. Let's probably do something weird. As you can see, yeah, it's done exactly what I thought it's going to do. Something strange up here. But you can see the effect. The effect's given us, it's given us the normal map, even though it is an awful normal map. What I'll do is I'll go on here. You can leave it as a bump if you want. I don't tend to see it being the best. It probably gives you the best preview of depth, but you most likely want to have it as tangent space normals for Unreal Engine. For the sake of it, what I'll do is I'll add a light in here, because usually that brings up the most of the bump maps effect. Right, let's press T to bring up a focus point. And we'll press this to bring the lights on. As you can see, let me just move it across, turn it down. As you can see, they can see the bump going on here. You can sort of see something going on a bit further down, but honestly, it doesn't really tend to matter too much. It's about taking the time to do it and not rushing through like this. So what we'll do is we'll just move this back to our x-axis point here and delete this. Right, and as awful as it is, as I say, we'll just import this anyway. So what we'll do is we'll file, export selection. I'm just going to find where my other exports were. Here we go. And it is wall straight 01. So I'll just export selection and yes, and I've got Unreal already opened. And what I'll do now is I'll open the content browser. And here's the content browser here. As you can see, Kylo Ren standing there. What we'll do is we will import the wall straight 01 again. And this exists. Do we want to overwrite? Yeah, obviously we want to overwrite. We don't want it as an skeletal mesh. Still not sure why it's doing that. Want it to import materials and textures, and import. And there we go. And as quick as that, we've literally changed the look of our map into the strangest multicoloured textured map you've ever seen. But it is literally as simple as that. The more effort and time and detail you put into it, the better this is obviously going to look. The more the normal maps give off regards to the bump, the better the lighting's going to affect it. As you can see, even if I was to build the lighting again, it's not really going to give us too much of an effect around this. What you want to do is you want to make sure that each piece, the one piece is got that much detail in, that even though you've duplicated it over and over and over, you know, you're still going to get, you know, not too much of a similarity between each piece. You're not going to be caught, your eye's not going to be caught to it as being something that's a bit of a letdown. You could even just duplicate this piece again, save it out as SM wall straight 201, and have a completely different texture and a completely different layout, and have a bit more difference in the pieces. There's also things you can try out with. I think there's like masking you can do, where you can layer masking, where you can go into the engine and paint out, you know, specific, you know, dirty areas, you know, bits of details, stuff like that, you know, and just go throughout the whole map and just spray that across each individual piece you want. But the process of getting in from modeling from Maya into Unreal Engine, being able to model it, export it / import it, UV it, texturing it, is pretty much, that's all you pretty much need to start making a level. Now, when it comes to the tools I used, obviously I've got Photoshop, which is a paid software where you could potentially get that. You've also got Endo, I think that was a one-off payment maybe. Again, if you want to make games and you want to make mods for games, there's no reason why you shouldn't just buy it. You can also make the normal maps other ways. You can bake in Maya. Again, this is how it looks. Again, it is an awful texture. So, but that is literally how you get a texture in there. That was a nice, smooth sci-fi texture with metals and plastics and a nice texture on the piping and a nice normal map with dents and bumps and obviously dirt around the grooves, things like that. It looked pretty cool. Again, it's very, very samey map. It's the same model over and over and over and over. So you could add in your own models here and there, like one every so often. Things with missing and stuff like that as well. But for this purpose, that's pretty much all you need to know to create your own physical map regards models, textures, UVs. Now, the next step would be to add the gameplay elements for an actual map. Now, in Unreal Engine, I know for a fact there's quite a lot of ways where you can edit your own blueprints. What I can show you first off is, quite quickly compared to our other tutorials, is that a lot of the features to making your own map playable are in this content browser / modes on the left. All you need to do is add a specific amount of player starts, and once you've added those player starts in around the map, that is literally your spawn points. What you also need to do, what I'll do is, I'll add one or two. Okay, we'll add two for each one. Right, player start here, and I'll just duplicate this one. Right, so we've got those two there, and we'll have both of them on team number 0, and we'll have this one on. Right, let me get rid of this one and put in a UT player start, Unreal Tournament player start, or team player start, and then we'll have one here, and we'll have one here, and these will be team 1. I'll just change this to 1, and other than that, let me just place and make sure that I get the right thing. Play, okay. Let me just add bots to see exactly what it'll do. So if you press the little, again, I don't even know what this is called, you press play and you go onto your keyboard, and it should be the button or the key above tab, and it should have a weird selection of icons on it. Press that and type add bots and then the number. Now there's 4 player start and there's one of me, so if I add 3, that means that there's going to be 3 bots. Now they're probably just going to be standing there as yet. Here we go, just going to be standing there without being able to move. Now if you're getting this issue, literally the only thing you need to do to actually get them to run around your map is adding a nav mesh. Right, and this nav mesh, what it'll do, it's difficult to see, so what I'll do is I'll go to the side view. Right, here we go, and what we'll do is we will scale it down, move it across, and again scale it down, or scale it across, sorry. And actually we don't even need to have it that high, we can just have it literally wherever the floor is. Wherever there's a floor that you want somebody to be able to walk on, you make sure that you overlap it with this box. Now this is probably the view that we need to sort out. Yeah, here we go. Right, now what that is going to do is tell the bots that they can actually move along that area. So now that's there, right, we want to make sure that we build the path. Sometimes this can take a while, so I'll just let it go. Okay, that doesn't matter. And press P, and you can see that the map is getting laid out. Actually, what I'll do is I will actually get rid of this here, just because it's probably going to mess up the navigation. What we'll do is press P. As you can see, it's trying to get through to these walls here. What we'll do is we'll go build paths again. Yeah, as you can see, that's got rid of that, and it's literally showing us a map. A map navigation all the way through here. So what we'll do is we'll play again, and we'll see. We'll just add bots again and see what happens. Oh, yeah, he's running away, running around. Now, the actual layout of this map, as you can see, doesn't actually give any indication to the player or the bot of where to go. So, for example, finding anyone in this map is pretty difficult. Right, there we go. So, one thing you can do to this is obviously add a bit more of a navigation feel to it. Now, what we've been doing is each map should have a sort of architectural flow. So, most maps that you would see on Unreal Engine, tutorial sites, even on the mainstream games like Call of Duty, CSGO, old school Battlefield, you know, everything pretty much, they've all got a set feel and sort of architectural flow, whereas most of them are a figure of 8 or around about a figure of 8, where there is a lot of key areas to the map where obviously the bots will all uniquely flow around. So with this one, obviously with 4 players, it's very, very difficult for the bots to get to each other, and there's no weapon placements. So what we'll do is we'll just add a couple of weapon placements, and we'll see if that will do anything to the actual map. So we've got a weapon base, we'll add one right here in this red area here. And all you've got to do when you add something like this is make sure you rebuild the navigation, otherwise the bots will not know that there's a weapon here. So we've added the weapon base, and we've added for example, let's go rocket launcher. And what we'll do is I will just duplicate this a couple more times. Actually, what I'll do is I will place this in the very center of the map if possible, even if it's not on a unique red spaced piece. Just have that right there. So that is the one big gun that will entice the bots to go near it, because it's a rocket launcher is programmed into them that they should actually try and get it more than leave it, because obviously the aim is to win the game, and they're going to try and win the game by getting the best weapon. So we'll press play. It might need a bit of time to realise there's a new nav mesh going, but we'll just add bots anyway, and we'll see. Yeah, so he's off, all ready to get that weapon. And yeah, it's that obvious that this is the best place to be, that he is literally not moving from this spawn point. Now what I'll do is, this was an example of a map of how to actually get the pieces and obviously the texture and the UV in. This was an example for all that. What I'll do is I'll open up an example of a map that I've made, or I'm making previously, just so we can see the difference. Don't save because there's no point. Right, this is a work in progress map, and we've got obviously stairwells to an upstairs. We've got a very central point. We've got lifts to a downstairs area, and we've got a downstairs area down here with obviously different lighting, more weapon pickups, and the actual map layout is a figure of 8 on top of a figure of 8. Let's have a look at the side view. Yeah, we've got 2 levels with another level on top there, so 3 levels. And what we'll do, we'll just play this. Well, maybe not in that view, we'll go into the normal view. We'll play this, and we will add, let's see, how many bots do I have? Right, we've got, and this isn't even using models, so I'm actually going to I'm going to re-export these into Maya. I'm going to redo the models and textures and normal maps, and I'm going to re-import them back in, and obviously have a working, you know, finished map rather than just a block out of a map. So, player starts, we have, let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. Okay, 8 on that side, we'll have 8 on that side. Okay, so we'll add 15. This might lag for about 2 minutes. 15 bots, and there we go. Oh, as you can see, I've added too many. As you can see, there's a lot. See, there are a lot different sort of navigational. There's a lot more navigation going on with the players. It's again still not the best because the areas aren't getting used as much up here. However, compared to the last one where they were glitching out, I'd say it is. Oh, that's what I know why, because I forgot to add bots again. Right, yeah, there we go. We'll add bots again. 15, is that enough? Yeah, probably have another red team next to us again. As you can see, yeah, difference. So we've got these people doing something strange, which is contradicting what I've said originally. But for the most part, maybe I've added too many people. For the most part, the bots tend to do the right thing, and as you can see, there's gunfire going off everywhere here. So it's obviously proof that there's proper areas where there's going to be a lot more fighting going on. However, again, tweaking's going to be needed for this. As you can see, at the very beginning, there was two ways they split off. However, you know, you still want to make sure that there's a very even spread of bots going around. Again, it's a bit more difficult using bots in this, obviously, because you'd rather use people, you know, and give them the option to use their own mind rather than a programmed way. There's a lot of people who would prefer to go to these sniper spots. There's a lot of people who would prefer to go to this gun here, go down the middle, try and get to a capture point. A lot of people also who would prefer to stay down here in the dark. So you've got endless possibilities when it comes down to player versus player, but using bots is a good way to test things out. So in this episode, probably a lot shorter than the previous two because they were more of a follow along. In this one, what we got done is obviously how to UV a piece or any piece of model or any full model. Again, UV editor shows what your layout is. You make sure that you use up all the space you can in this one area here. You've got obviously add a material. You've got the UV up here. You've got automatic. So if I just select every single thing here and go on UV automatic, you can see it UVs it nice and neatly and spreads it out, but it doesn't give you the best way to texture. You can see that if I was to move this down, it's just going all over the show, whereas the way we did it originally, it's giving you the option to uniformly and nice and neat. Like, I could edit the texture of this front face here and have it overlap slightly and it would perfectly fit around the outside of that, whereas if you automatically did it, as you can see again, it's literally put the front piece here on the left. Let me show you the front piece on the not even that, it's got half of the front piece on the left and the two side pieces on the right. Now that is definitely not the way we wanted to do it. So that's UVing. Simply UV and map using the automatic, the planar, the cylindrical if you want. When you're in the UV editor, you can, I like to use the move and sew tool. Sometimes you can unfold if you're using cylindrical pieces. Layout would spread them out for you even more so. Again, it uses up a lot more. It uses up a lot less space, and and fits them tightly together. But it's still best to sort of pick where you put them yourself to make it easy to texture. As you can see, I've put all the pieces of all the red pieces down here, which means that I could uniformly change that whole section with this one squared texture. Now that's the UVing done. Obviously texturing's slightly different. Oh, this is the normal map that we probably can't get back from now. Let me just open the texture up. There we go. So as you can see, it's as simple as that. Whatever textures you add will appear in exactly the right space that you've put on the UV. Go as crazy as you want with it. You could add the person's face if you want, which is how you do it for characters. Obviously not the right shape, but you can still do the same thing. Normal maps, you can use black and white images. I prefer to use Endo. Using black and white and the contrast in between give you these bumps, so you could add, and you can obviously also draw in your own, so you could draw in details if you want. You can edit the scale of the brush, the size of the brush, the bevel, the groove, if it goes up or down. There you go. You could add, that could be a bolt hole, which sounds ridiculous, but it could be. That's the detail you don't have to add with a model. You've got this here again, as much detail as you want. You could add, you could add names, you could add anything you want, but that is what I use for normal maps. There's all other different variations on normal maps, such as, oops, I just opened Movie Studio, such as the a preview I like to use is ambient occlusion, screen space ambient occlusion. As you can see, let me just get rid of the grid just because it's annoying. What it does is it just adds the shadows, the real world shadows that would be there from these pieces being next to each other. As you can see, there is a joint, that's why there's a shadow, and this thing just literally smooths out the edges. So there's a lot more you can add to it, but for a base level to start you off, you could literally make anything you want as a level in this way. So you could have all your pieces created from very similar pieces. You could have them all UV'd from the very same pieces. You could have them all textured on the same texture space. You could have them all imported into Unreal Engine. You could, obviously with tweaking, even get something exactly the same as this. But most of this is just, again, these are larger pieces, but they do fit to the scale, or the scale's right, but they do fit to the power of 2 / even numbers, so that the textures will fit. You could just UV map this one whole huge piece and UV that whole piece, but for the most time effective and sort of way to use up the least amount of texture space with the most amount of pieces, you could just do this and simply minimize, move it over, re-snapshot it, and you've got your snapshot. You can go into Photoshop, you can go into Paint if you want, and paint in whatever you want, take as much time as you want, and have every single piece on the one texture space, and it just saves you a lot of memory for your computer as well, so a lot of RAM. So basically that's pretty much it for the very standard and very basic system of getting your map created in Unreal Engine. You've gone from creating a basic model to importing it into Unreal, to UV mapping it, texturing it to a degree as much as you want, and then making it playable by step 1, adding player starts. So UV, oh sorry, not UV, UT player start. Again, this is not non-saved, so let's go on here. Player start, UT team player start, adding up to 20, 10 on each team, making sure that you change the team number from 0 to 1 on half of them. Also, as I say, adding a nav mesh so that the bots know where to go. You don't need that if you're going to play against other people. Once I've got a larger knowledge on Unreal Engine, I'm going to be making a lot more in-depth videos on adding your own personal touches to it, such as your own weapons, your own, characters that you can run around as, possibly delve into other things other than, team deathmatch things, side scrollers, stuff like that. But this was a kick-off series to the channel, where it's going to be mainly going to be tutorial videos, time-lapse videos, and obviously requests, things like that. So if you've got this far into the video and you're still listening to me, give me a comment or a shout on Twitter, at mention me, whatever you want to do, and let me know if there's anything that you'd like to see made, anything modelled, if there's anything in regards to this that you want me to go a bit more in depth in, regards to UV and texture and whatever you want to do. Other than that, just check out the previous videos, check out the Kylo Ren time-lapse and the update video. Obviously check me out on social media sites, Twitter, Facebook, things like that. But other than that, just thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.